Tenny wasn't just Amara's best friend. Tenny was the person Amara called before she called her mother. The one who knew where Amara hid her spare key, her darkest fears, and the dreams she was too scared to say out loud. For 8 years, that felt like love. It wasn't. They met in secondary school. Back row. Same sense of humor. Instant. By university, they shared everything. Clothes, playlists, secrets, silence. If you saw one, you saw the other. People called them twins. They liked that. What Amara didn't see, couldn't see, was that while she was busy being open, being soft, being herself, Tenny was paying very close attention. Every confession, every plan, every private corner of Amara's life that she offered up freely because she trusted this woman completely. Tenny listened like a best friend. She remembered like something else entirely. Amara told Tenny about Dayo, the way he laughed, the way he made her feel safe, the small things that made her love him. She told Tenny about her career ambitions, her manager's name, the colleagues she trusted and the ones she didn't. She told her about her family, her parents' expectations, the vision of herself she was trying to become. Every word Tenny received with warmth. Every word Tenny filed away. Amara was not confiding in a friend. She was briefing her replacement. But Amara didn't know that yet. So when she landed the job at Meridian and Associates, the one she had worked 2 brutal years for, the first person she called, screaming with joy, was Tenny.
Tenny, I got the job. I am so happy.
I am so proud of you. You deserve this.
And Tenny, voice warm as always, said, I'm so proud of you. You deserve this more than anyone in the world. 3 months later, Amara would help get Tenny hired at the same company. She thought she was being a good friend. She had no idea she had just handed Tenny the keys. It didn't happen overnight. That's the thing nobody tells you about being replaced. It's quiet, gradual. By the time you notice, the damage is already done. Tenny started small. She began using Amara's phrases, the specific ones, the ones Amara had coined over years. Then she started dressing like her. Same colors, same cuts, the exact aesthetic Amara had spent years building into something recognizably hers. When Amara mentioned it, laughing, Tenny tilted her head and said, We've been together too long. It's just natural. You rub off on people you love. Amara believed her. Because why wouldn't she? This was Tenny. At work, the shift was even more calculated. Tenny charmed Amara's manager, using the exact insights Amara had shared about how the woman liked to be spoken to, what she valued, what made her trust someone. Tenny befriended the colleagues Amara had carefully pointed out as worth knowing. She positioned herself, piece by piece, inside the professional life Amara had built. And Amara, watching it happen, felt proud. She thought she was seeing her best friend thrive. She told herself that's what love looked like. The most dangerous betrayals don't announce themselves. They wear your favorite dress and smile at you across the room. Then, Dayo started acting strange. Phone face down. Calls taken outside. A smile that appeared on his face at odd hours and had nothing to do with Amara. Amara noticed. She told herself she was being paranoid. One afternoon, she picked up his phone just to check the time, nothing more, and a message appeared on the screen before it locked. It was from a contact saved simply as T. The message read, "She still doesn't know, does she? Keep it that way." Amara set the phone down. Her hands were steady. Her face was still. But something inside her, something she couldn't name, cracked clean open. She didn't confront Dayo. Not yet. Because confronting him would mean confronting what she already knew, and she wasn't ready for that to be real. She would be ready soon, whether she wanted to be or not. It came apart the way a building collapses. Not slowly, not dramatically, but all at once, with a sound like silence. Amara's manager called her into a glass-walled office on a Tuesday morning. She sat across from a woman who had rehearsed her expression and had the words restructuring, evaluated, and letting you go in a sentence that lasted less than 30 seconds. No warning, no paper trail, no reason that held water. Amara packed her things into a cardboard box and walked past every desk she had earned the right to walk past. She sat in her car in the basement parking lot for 40 minutes. She did not cry. There was nothing left to cry with, just a hollow, humming silence where her life had been. 11 days later, Tenny was promoted into the role built from the ruins of Amara's position. Same office, same accounts, same chair, same title, just a different name on the door. Tenny texted Amara the same evening. "Big news! Got promoted today. We should celebrate soon. Cheers!" Amara read the message 3 times. Then she put her phone face down on the kitchen table and sat very, very still. 4 days after that, Dayo sat across from her at that same table, hands folded, eyes somewhere above her head, and said he thought they had grown apart, that it wasn't working, that he cared about Amara, but he didn't look guilty. That's how Amara knew. Guilt means you think you did something wrong. Dayo had already decided he hadn't. Amara didn't fight it. She let him finish. She nodded. She watched him leave her apartment with a bag he'd clearly packed before the conversation started. 3 days later, Amara saw them, Dayo and Tenny, walking out of a restaurant 2 streets away, laughing. Tenny was wearing a dress, cream, off-shoulder, that Amara had worn on the night Dayo first told her he loved her. This same dress. Tenny had borrowed it once, 2 years ago, and apparently never returned it. Dayo was looking at Tenny the way he used to look at Amara, like she was something rare. Amara stood on the pavement and watched them for exactly 4 seconds. Then she turned and walked away. Her hands went shaking. That frightened her more than anything. That she wasn't even surprised. That somewhere beneath the grief, beneath the rage, was a cold and terrible understanding beginning to form. This wasn't accident. This wasn't coincidence. This was a plan. And it had been running for a very long time. Amara sat alone in her living room that night with all the lights on. She hadn't moved in hours. Still in her coat. Still holding her phone like it was evidence of something. The television was off. The flat was silent. She was a shadow of herself, present in body, gone everywhere else. No job, no boyfriend, No best friend. Everything she had built dismantled. And the person who had done it was currently sleeping comfortably in a life that used to belong to Amara. The disbelief was the worst part. Not the anger. That would come later, clean and useful. The disbelief was heavy, shapeless. 8 years. 8 years, and Tenny had looked her in the face every single day and felt nothing. Amara sat with that for a long time. And then, somewhere around midnight, something shifted. A thought surfaced, slow at first, then sharp. A memory she hadn't touched in years, buried so deep she had almost forgotten it was there. Tenny had a secret, and Amara was the only person alive who knew it. 3 years before Meridian, before any of this, Tenny had worked at a small finance firm across town. She lasted 4 months. The official story was that she had resigned to pursue other opportunities. The real story, the one Tenny had confessed in a whisper on Amara's bedroom floor, crying, swearing her to silence, was something else entirely. Money had gone missing from the accounts Tenny managed, not a small amount. The investigation had been quiet. The firm didn't want the scandal. But Tenny had been escorted out and the door had been permanently closed behind her. It was why every job application since had eventually stalled. Background conversations happened in industries. Word got around in ways that never showed up on paper. Tenny had begged Amara never to speak of it. And Amara, being Amara, had kept that secret faithfully. Until now. Amara opened her laptop, created a new email address, anonymous, untraceable, wrote 3 careful paragraphs to the HR director at Meridian and Associates. No emotion, no fingerprints, just facts, dates, the name of the firm, and a suggestion to make a quiet phone call. She read it twice. Then she pressed send. Then she closed the laptop, turned off the lights, and went to bed for the first time in 3 days. The call came on a Wednesday. Tenny was summoned to the CEO's office. No explanation, no warning, just an assistant at her desk saying Mr. Adeyemi would like to see her now. The office was quiet when she walked in. The CEO sat behind his desk with a folder in front of him and an expression that gave nothing away. Beside him, Tenny noticed, was a woman she didn't recognize. Someone brought in, she would later understand, specifically for this meeting. The questions began calmly. The firm she had worked at previously, the circumstances of her departure, whether she had anything she wished to disclose before they continued. Tenny denied everything, steadily, fluently, with the practiced ease of someone who had rehearsed this denial so many times it had almost become true. The CEO listened. Then he opened the folder. He had already spoken to the firm. He had already spoken to their former finance director. The folder contained everything. Tenny's voice broke mid-sentence. She tried to recover, tried a different angle, context, misunderstandings, circumstances, but the room had already decided. She could see it in the stillness of the CEO's expression. The verdict had been reached before she walked through the door. She began to cry. Real tears this time, not the managed kind. Ugly, desperate crying that filled the silent office and changed nothing. Security was called. 2 men she had said good morning to every day for months walked her out of the building with her handbag and nothing else. The lift doors closed. The lobby passed in a blur. The glass doors opened onto the street and then shut behind her with a sound like finality. Tenny stood on the pavement outside Meridian and Associates in the afternoon sun, mascara on her cheeks and no idea what to do next. She went home and told Dayo everything. She needed someone. She sat on the edge of the bed, still shaking, and laid it all out. Fired, exposed, finished at Meridian. She waited for him to come and sit beside her, to say something that felt like solid ground. Dayo was quiet for a moment. Then he looked up from his phone and said, "So, there's no money coming in now? How are we supposed to survive? No work, no income. What exactly is the plan here?" Tenny stared at him. Not the words of a man watching the woman he chose fall apart. The words of a man calculating what her collapse would cost him personally. Something broke open in Tenny. Not grief this time, but rage. Raw, unfiltered. The kind that had nowhere left to hide.
Are you serious right now? Can you not work? You sit in this house every single day like a child waiting to be fed. Get up. Do something. You have hands, don't you?
The argument that followed was loud enough for the neighbors to hear through the walls. It went on for 40 minutes. Dayo, it turned out, had no interest in being with a woman who couldn't provide the life he had signed up for. He had chosen Temi because she had Amara's career, Amara's stability, Amara's momentum. Without those things, Temi was just a woman he didn't know very well. He hadn't chosen Temi. He had chosen the version of Amara's life that Temi was performing. Now, the performance was over. The next morning, Temi appeared at Amara's door. Not to apologize, not to explain. She had worked herself into a fury overnight, blaming Amara for the anonymous tip, for the job, for Dayo, for all of it. And she arrived with that fury fully loaded, voice raised before Amara had fully opened the door.
You are a very terrible person, and you made me lose my job. You made me lose everything.
Amara said nothing. She stood in her doorway and let Tenny speak. Neighbors appeared in the corridor. An older woman from next door stepped out with her arms folded. A man from downstairs came up to see what the noise was. They positioned themselves between the two women, hands out, voices low. Settle down, this is not the way. Tenny kept going, pointing, accusing, her voice cracking in places in a way that had nothing to do with grief and everything to do with panic. The sound of someone who has realized too late that the house of cards has fallen and there is no one left to blame but herself. Amara looked at her, really looked, and felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity. Just the quiet, settled understanding of someone watching a fire burn itself out. Because here was the truth Tenny would never speak aloud and never fully face. She had lost everything, and she felt no guilt about how she had gotten it. Only fury that it was gone. She was not sorry for what she had done to Amara. She was sorry it hadn't lasted longer. That was who Tenny was. That had always been who Tenny was. Amara had simply been the last to know.